Just weeks after the 2020 election, then President Donald Trump personally pressured local officials in Michigan to overturn the vote in the state's largest county. Now, this comes from new reporting by the Detroit News, which obtained recordings of that phone call from November 17th, 2020. Now, we actually covered this exact story as it was happening, although we didn't know about the recording, at 8 p.m. on that Tuesday night, just 2 weeks after the election. Breaking news tonight out of Michigan, where two Republican members of the four-person Board of Canvassers in Wayne County, Michigan, who are tasked with certifying the results of the election, have decided not to do that, citing virtually no evidence, a preposterously bad faith move. Now, Wayne County, of course, the most populous county in the state. It encompasses Detroit. It went for Joe Biden by over 320,000 votes. And the Republican chair of the board, Monica Palmer is her name, says that she would be open to certifying the vote in communities other than Detroit. This certainly appears to be a flagrant attempt by Republicans to just openly steal an election that Joe Biden won by 148,000 votes statewide in Michigan. And on the show, Michigan Secretary of State Democrat Jocelyn Benson told me she would not let this blatant attempt to cheat stand.
We have seen multiple attempts to try to disenfranchise and undermine the will of our voters throughout this entire election cycle, particularly after the election. Since the American people have spoken, we still see these attempts to misinform or confuse citizens about the validity of the results. So this is simply an extension of that and a move in the other side's playbook to undermine the will of the people. But we're not going to stand for it. We're going to ensure that every valid vote will count and that the certification of our results will be an official reflection of the will of the people.
But Republicans were defiant. They even celebrated the move. The chair of the state party, Laura Cox, state Republican Party, wrote that she was, quote, proud that enough evidence of irregularities and potential voter fraud was uncovered, resulting in the Wayne County Board of Canvassers refusing to certify their election results. Of course, that's nonsense. None was uncovered. The president himself tweeted that night, quote, wow, Michigan just refused to certify the election results. Having courage is a beautiful thing. The USA stands proud. We now know that behind the scenes, Donald Trump was trying to bully the Wayne County Republicans into doing his bidding, of going along with the coup. On the recorded call from November 17th, Trump told the two Republican members of the Wayne County Board of Canvassers that they would look, quote, terrible if they signed the documents to certify the county's election results after they first voted in opposition. The then president added, quote, we've got to fight for our country. We can't let these people take our country away from us. It's kind of interesting, huh? I've heard that rhetoric before. Another point in the call, Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna Romney McDaniel. You know her, right? She's on the call, too. She's, helping them out. Told the Republicans, if you can go home tonight, do not sign it. We will get you attorneys. Oh, looks like Ronna was part of the coup. And Trump concurred, quote, we'll take care of that. Now, luckily, it didn't work. After they hung up with the president and after hours of angry responses from Wayne County residents, God bless them, the Wayne County Board of Canvassers abruptly changed course and certified the results of the November 3rd election. The following day, the Republican members actually tried to rescind those votes. They both signed affidavits saying they regret their votes, arguing that, quote, intense bullying and coercion plus bad legal advice forced them to agree to certify the election after they had voted no. But they were unsuccessful, and the certification went forward as it should. As Secretary Jocelyn Benson put it, quote, what started as the lowest moment of the post-election melee became the most inspiring. The voters won. Facts and the rule of law carried the day. Democracy prevailed. Joining me once again is Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. And Madam Secretary, I want to go back to that period of time because you wrote a long post about it that reminded me of how I was feeling. And I remember having the same kind of wait a second feeling because what was at issue was that there's a whole bunch of statutorily bipartisan boards that don't have a partisan majority on purpose. And the whole point is for them to sort of have this administrative function, which just say like, yep, these numbers line up, we got it, we certify. And that if all of a sudden you start radicalizing the Republicans on those boards to not certify, you can kind of take down the whole integrity of the system. And tell me how you were thinking about it as this was playing out.
Yeah, not just radicalize the members, but cajole and perhaps even bribe them to break the law to further your political agenda. And thanks, Chris, for having me and reminding me that I was with you as all this unfolded play by play. It was quite extraordinary and remarkable to see. Especially when you had hundreds of citizens show up and demand, very cogently and with the law on their side that their votes count. It was really inspiring to see citizens have more power than the president of the United States, even in that moment. Yet at the same time, we were also very much aware in that moment that Michigan and Wayne County in Michigan was to be the first domino to fall in what has since really been unveiled as this elaborate national scheme that went all the way to the tragedy at our U.S. Capitol on January 6th, but began with inserting uncertainty and doubt into the certification process in Michigan that would have then been used, as you saw, the Trump's tweet at the time really was setting up to do, to challenge the certification in Pennsylvania, which was going the following week, and then Georgia and Wisconsin after that. And so we knew we were the first domino to fall. And that's why I was feeling so dejected that night, because if we failed to stop that domino from falling, that was a win for this election subversion attempt. And who knows what could happen next. And thankfully, it didn't fall. The people stood firm, and as a result, the elections were certified and didn't stop the efforts in other states, as we know, but it certainly made it much more difficult and really paved the way for the failure of the entire effort.
I think, if I'm recalling correctly, and there was a lot going on at the time, I think there was some contemporaneous reporting at the time that the then president Donald Trump was actually reaching out to these individuals on the canvassing board. But now we've got the smoking gun evidence. We got a recording of the call reported in the Detroit press. What do you think about the fact that he is personally calling the Republicans on the Wayne County board to get them to go along with this plan, putting the full pressure of the presidency on them?
Yeah, I mean, look, when it happened, we knew. I wasn't surprised. The reporting in the Detroit News was the first time I had learned of this recording, but it didn't surprise me. The content of which we were already well aware that he was trying to pressure these local, appointed officials to subvert their own duty, their legal duty under the law. We knew that as it was happening. And it's really, when you're up against the president of the United States, right, the purported leader of the free world, and that we had the truth and the law and the will of the people on our side, it is really harrowing and scary because you don't know ultimately. I mean, democracy is fragile, as that time also revealed to us. And when I was on your show in that moment, I didn't know how it was all going to play out. But you hope for people to follow the law and do the best in that moment. And the beauty of that night was that because citizens showed up and demanded democracy prevail, that's the reason it ultimately did.
By the way, it's Detroit News, not the Free Press. I want to be clear because it's fantastic reporting and they should get credit where due. You correctly named them and I didn't. What do you think about the RNC chair and fellow Michigander, Ronna Romney McDaniel, playing the role of essentially accomplice, saying we, the RNC, will provide you with legal representation to break the law, to flagrantly violate and subvert election law? That to me is real news here, the degree to which she was an accomplice in this phone call.
Well, before that, she had held a press conference in Michigan it was just filled with misinformation and lies about our elections. And so, again, no surprise to me, frankly. And we know the coordination and the amount of focus on Michigan was clear as we were living through this. So I wasn't surprised. It's in some ways validating and gratifying to see this additional evidence, because in many ways, this entire 3-year battle has been this battle between evidence and proof of fair elections and efforts to subvert it, and efforts to confuse the reality, to spread misinformation about that. So the more proof and evidence we have, as this tape shows, the stronger we feel going into 2024 and all these criminal proceedings, that the law and justice will also prevail. We'll see. It's still unfolding. But my hope is emboldened, I guess, and bolstered through this reporting and what's been revealed through this recording.